The eclipse. Forget Blood Moon.
The shirt?
Yeah. Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. Today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchist Ted.
And we're doing the thing.
It's Saturday, the normal thing, you know.
Yeah, I think we're only a couple minutes late this time.
Like
not 15 like last week.
So today we're going to talk about character death. This is, where the DMs are scheduling TPKs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Doug, is that an arm? You don't want to know what that was you were just looking at. I'm not saying I'm not wearing pants, but... Yeah, so we're going to talk... I don't know about TPKs, but just character death in general.
That was a joke.
Oh, I was reading and listening and not listening at all.
So there's a whole bunch of different ways that character death can wind up, happening in your game.
It usually happens with a character dying.
Right, but what precipitates that? Is it player choice? Is it, a character making a choice? Is it bad dice rolls? Is it a angry GM? There's a lot of different ways that you can get to that particular scene.
Don't say that 2 more times or you may summon him.
I don't want to do that.
Honestly, too, we can, because it's been a while since we've talked about character death, but we can talk about one of the more famous character deaths in the D&D space as well.
Okay.
Taliesin Jaffe had his character die, which was kind of a big deal, and there was a lot of angst over the internet because it didn't have important story connotations, right? So there were people upset with that. And while that is a way to play D&D, at the same time, the way we've always played and our history with the game is quite different. And I think we're not writing books. We're telling stories, but it's not a novel, right? So, so it gets into that gray area of, well, you shouldn't have a character die if it's not dramatic or important. But then, in real life, people die all the time for no reason. For no good reason.
From Molly's perspective, or from Molly's situation, it absolutely is important to the story. From the player perspective...
See, I didn't actually watch the episode. I just saw the little... I just heard about the backlash, over it.
I mean, this is telling to, something that happened in our game many, many moons ago, many years ago. But Matt, in that particular session, he had warned them. Those guys are powerful. If you're going to do something, you're going to have to do it right. They're out of your league. I watched it. I'm not currently caught up, but all of that happened, many months ago. And it's something that it's like, all right, Molly died. That sucks. But it teaches the players that, all right, at times you need to be aware you're playing and living in a world where not everything is always going to be up to your level. Some things are going to be way beyond.
Voiceover guy, whatever you say, in a world.
I can't do that voice, or at least I haven't practiced enough to really try.
We need Pete for that, but unfortunately, that will require a seance because he used to game with us, a good friend of ours, Pete, and suddenly died. Right, so real world, and that's kind of what happens. And sometimes the game should go that way too.
So, the players were told that they weren't up to this challenge, and the fight stopped. It's like, all right, I feel like I've taught you enough, and off they went. And it was like, holy crap. It could have gone much worse. There could have been multiple character deaths. In your game many years ago, it was late at night. All the players were, bloodthirsty. We kept pushing, and you were like, look, you shouldn't.
Didn't you guys just end up in a net and they just speared you to death?
I don't remember the details. I remember I was playing Matoya, some kind of swashbucklery class in 3rd edition, totally based off of, one of the awesomest swashbucklers of all, Inigo Matoya, from Princess Bride. And we went down a path. We ignored all the warnings. And we got ambushed, and we got gutted. We were killed.
I think that was a bad character. I think they were bad character deaths, though. In hindsight, 20 years.
This is going back quite a ways. Our style of gaming has completely changed. I'm moved away from the bloodthirsty, always playing martial type characters, and you've evolved as a GM to, not be as adversarial. But the message is you deliver the warnings just as Matt delivered the warnings in Critical Role, and in both situations it was ignored. You went into it. We both went into fights, and that party from yours, we all died. In that party on Critical Role, Molly died. It became a learning lesson for both tables from that point that sometimes you just shouldn't go into a fight. Sometimes you just need to stop, turn around, and go in the other direction.
So what about from a different angle? What I would just say with that TPK that was participating, because I think they ended up in a net, and then they just got long speared to death after that. Going back in hindsight, they were bad character deaths because I would have did like something with prisoners instead. Were I to run that now,
right?
But that being said, I don't think meaningless deaths need to be taken out of the game. I think they have a place and they belong in the game, especially like in your early game when Mark's character died. I think sometimes just because of bad rolls and bad things that happen at the table, characters should sometimes die.
We play a game where dice and player/character decisions have to mean something. If you save a character's life just because there's not a story reason for it, then that actually puts the players more at ease. I as a DM, I love watching my players get up from the table and be like, damn, this is a hard fight. I need to go stressy. I find that amusing, not because I'm,
He just wants to contribute to obesity in America. That's the benchmark of his DMing for the evening. Yeah, Did I make someone fatter tonight?
It's not about, encouraging obesity. I want to feel that as a GM, that when combat happens, that it's stressful, that that the players feel adequately challenged. If every combat that you come across is, it's a cakewalk, I just cut my way through everything and move on, then it's not as enjoyable. You've got to have the highs and you've got to have the lows to make the emotional voyage that a game should be. You've got to get up, you've got to get down. I don't kill characters all that regularly. In 5th edition, I've got a handful of character deaths, but I mean, in previous editions, it's next to nothing in comparison to what I've actually had in 5th. And most of my character deaths have been outside of my main campaign. Mm-hmm. In that one, I killed off Mark's first character. When players left my game, I killed off Ken and Ivy's character as a story-driven moment, because they had confirmed that they weren't coming back to the table, and it was like, all right, this could be impactful in the story to the other characters. How are they going to react? I can't remember the character's name anymore. But when
Buckle and I forget the other character's name.
Buckle was the druid. Rosalind?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I've got their character sheets. But when they passed, it's like, oh crap! These guys used to be fellow adventurers of ours, and now they're gone. So it was impactful, but it was a planned thing. It wasn't because of dice.
Where Mark's character death was absolutely because of dice.
Mark's character got dropped, and we learned right from there. You always have a medicine kit on you, because a simple use of it, voila, you're automatically stabilized. And for just a couple of gold.
We had a couple almost character deaths in the fan game on Sunday. And oh man, Sunday was a long day. It was like 9-10 hours of streaming.
Wow.
Because I did the fan game, and then I did the podcast for Saber Dice afterwards. But we had a couple characters that were one death save away from dying, and also it's they had a failed save, and then they rolled, and it's all right, you didn't roll, don't roll a 1, which is I like those tense moments. Right. when you have a player that's down and they have to make the death save. But So my fear with like this idea that the character's death should be tied to the narrative and be important to the narrative, and the story creates this like scenario when the players can be like, is this a BBEG fight or not? Do we have to worry or not? But here's the thing that I will say, just because a encounter happens and it's a throwaway encounter, heck, it could be a random encounter. If a player character dies during that encounter, that becomes a pivotal moment in the game that was never intended.
And that's where, like, as a player, you have the ability to make a choice. You can have that become a telling moment for you. Like, okay, this trivial fight totally got out of hand. My friend now died. How am I going to deal with that? How does that change the character? How does that change the story? Okay, as a GM, I now have to figure out, how do I shoehorn another character into here? What does a player do? What happens if it's mid-session? What if they don't have a backup? You've got all these different things to figure out. In one of the most recent sessions that I ran, actually in the last session I ran, in one of the more recent sessions I ran for my kids' game, one of the players decided, you know what? He got dropped, and it was touch and go, and when the fight was over, he's like, you know what, I don't want my character to live, I want to make somebody new. And, he made the choice of, can I let my character die? And, this is a 10, 11-year-old who no longer wanted to play a tiefling rogue, he wants to play a dwarven wizard illusionist. Okay, sure. So he's dropped. The bard goes over to, check on him, stabilize him, what have you. And rather than, okay, well, he's still got one death save still to make, I'm like, no. You go over and you realize that he's breathed his last. Player made the choice, not the character, that he wanted to die and make a new character. Happened to be near the end of the session, and that wound up changing the moment for Josh's character. And he's like, now I'm kind of torn, and the minion of this, evil wizard that happened to be in the area, controlled this thing. It killed my friend. Now I'm dead set against that wizard. And when he gets to the wizard in the next session, he realizes that wizard is more powerful than he can contend with. So it's like he's going to have to bide his time. So it creates this budding moment of where does the story go. It could have, if all the characters lived, they could have been like, okay, well, I don't need to deal with that wizard, or we're just going to move on and go take the story elsewhere.
So Justin Harris asked the question, what about replacing all resurrection raise spells to reincarnation to make things interesting? That's a table decision. Like, I don't have an opinion about that one way or the other. That's just like, what do you want to do at your table? Does everyone feel like you need to do that? I actually misunderstood the question when I first read it, like with the idea of, what if the character wanted to be, if you wanted to have the character reincarnated into a specific character instead of coming back, which, I would actually absolutely, there's definitely a time when I've been like, no, you can't do that. The rules, blah, blah, blah. And now I'd be like, I don't care. Does that mean the character comes back real fast and easy and I don't have to think about putting them back in the game? And the magical means happen to be there to do that? Sure. That's what we just did, Right. So I think as a GM, I've grown that way to like, what is the simplest way to accomplish a goal? And that you brought up, like, the difficulty with character death for the GM and the other players sometimes is putting another character into the game again and how you're going to do it. Now, we've gone in a direction with our gaming style where we don't really care about the narrative over having the players play the game. So if we can narrate it easily and bring someone right into the game and it makes story sense, we will. If we can't, we'll do it anyway. Just because I don't want a player sitting at the table watching other people play because maybe they had unlucky rolls, this night or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of different directions that can go, and it is far easier to be like, okay, how can I shoehorn something in? oh, do you have a story of how you would be here, or do you mind if I come up with a story of how you got from point A to point B, so that the action can start right away and that you're not sitting there waiting. You guys know that I love Critical Role. I've been a fan since I started watching, and there are times that Matt brings in guest stars and what have you, but there's been times where the guest star has been sitting out in the waiting room for 2 hours waiting to get into the game.
Yeah, that's terrible. That sounds terrible. I'm not saying it's terrible in the sense of what they're doing, because they're also doing a show, but I think it's terrible in the sense that I have a friend come over to play D&D with me, and I'm like, just go sit there for a couple hours. We'll get you when you're ready. Bring your Game Boy or something,
So from a narrative perspective, Critical Role is, the biggest D&D show that's out there. So I'm not going to tell Matt he's doing it wrong. At my table, I don't do that. I try to find, the most expedient manner to get that person into the game. But I'm not streaming for hundreds of thousands of people that are, madly in love with the game. And most games that I run aren't, in fact, streamed. So it's a lot different. With character choice, is different than player choice. In fact, the game that I ran for RPG Crate, there was a scene that was set up, and it was supposed to be hey, look, there's lots of loot that is here, but you have a timetable. You're in a cave. There's going to be a cave in. You're going to be limited to how much stuff that you can get. The character made the choice of, here's this evil object that's here. It's supposed to be, the thing is supposed to be able to stay, possibly for later story. I don't know, because it's not my material. The character decides, I want to stay and see if I can break this thing. So the character made the choice of, I'm willing to potentially die to break this evil artifact, evil object, what have you, while the other three happen to flee. So it's like, should that player, should that character, be punished? Should they die because of the character's choice? Now, if you happen to be following that game, you'll have to see what happens, in the next session, in a handful of weeks. But I thought it was pretty awesome choice for Bolgath to make, to be like, nope, you guys run off. I'm going to try and break this thing.
I guess without giving, I can't ask without being spoilers, because I'm like, did he get to break it or not? did Ted let his potential sacrifice go for naught or something? And there's always cool things like that. Like, you can give a dying character a last hurrah if you want. There's no reason why you can't do that. If you want to give them, even though it's maybe not an important encounter, you could give them an epic last moment, let them describe it. Or be like, okay, you're dead, but you can take one final action as long as it doesn't save your life. And what do you want to do with that?
There is a lot to be said, and to me, like, I look at movies and TV shows when characters are dying, and it's like, oh, they get to do one final thing, or they get to say one final thing. When a character dies in Critical Role, Matt's like, okay, what are your last words? And they get to say something. Whereas the mechanics of D&D, it's like, oh, you're at 0, you're unconscious, you're unable to move, you're unable to do anything. So you've got choices of how do you want to run things at your table. I know for my game, we're actually doing Session 0 next Saturday, and while player death isn't something that happens a lot in the games that I run, I wanna approach the Critical Role rules for Resurrection with the party and see how they feel, the Critical Role rules for Resurrection, and see how they feel about that, because it makes it a little bit more meaningful and a little bit harder to come back. So we'll see what they happen to say. There's 7 players, and if they're like all against it, then I'm like, okay, well, then we won't do that. But I think it'll be a little bit more interesting and a little bit more challenging, because it's not just a simple, well, I've got a 3rd level spell slot prepared, so they're going to be alive.
Yeah, they're talking about the Matt Colville game that went on.
Okay.
And I think he started off with like 12,000 people watching. Then I watched, I would check in from time. There was like 10,000, then 8,000. So like a ton of people watching him stream live. I will say, like, I don't know how people do the chat for those games, like how they can chat and be involved. Because I watch the chat and it just goes, I'm like, how can you possibly talk to each other? Maybe talk at each other, but I can't possibly see meaningful conversations happening in that chat because there's so much. But they're talking about it because some things happened during that session that kind of aligned with our discussion. But I'm not going to say it because it was just this past week and there's probably spoilers. In our own Saver Dice games, we've had quite a few character deaths. I think we're up to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. There was a TPK, which technically that one might be 8, but my character got away, and it's kind of alluded to that he died. But it didn't happen on screen, so I don't know if that. Yeah, I don't know if we should count that one because like it's not like it was diced out or anything like that. It was just whatever it was. It was either going to be narrated, but it happened off screen.
Well, we had the years ago in the, I guess you would call it the Gronor game, where we were all based out of Gronor and we were orcs and half orcs and what have you. And my character was the only one to survive the combat. We were just brutally attacked and the dice were not in our favor, and it was one of those things of like, did my character survive or did he not make it back to town? And I think it was ruled but never rolled that he did live, but that was another one of those similar things where like I grabbed my stuff and ran.
Yeah, it really depends. Like I would hate to like narrate a character out of existence unless it was like a foregone conclusion. But these things happen, and I like it that no matter what kind of game of D&D I'm playing, that character death is always a possibility. Bad rolls can happen. You can make bad decisions. As a GM, it is always nice if you're going to outclass the players with what's going on to kind of like try and do some foreshadowing. But sometimes it just doesn't work. Players are like, "Oh, this is an encounter. I'm going to fight."
And that's one of those things. But it's good as a GM that if you are putting something that's, going to outclass them, and they're going to approach a situation anyway, foreshadowing or having another plan in mind. And I keep going back to this, but like when you guys fought the Kraken, I stopped the fight, partway through because I'm like, I don't want to just annihilate the party. From a storyline perspective, we discussed, afterwards.
Well, you didn't just stop the fight. Like I think that's not an accurate assessment, because Lucky decided to try and negotiate. It wasn't like you just called it off.
No,
but you allowed the negotiations to happen.
Yes, yeah. I took an action to talk to see where things would go.
Because they don't know. They don't necessarily know that.
If you don't watch our games, the Kraken fight, the Kraken is like, give me a reason to not just kill.
And
him.
I don't know if that game's up.
I think that one is gone because I've talked to other fans about it.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where, from myself as a DM, we talked, off air. 2 of the characters potentially could have teleported, made it back to, a safe location, but the other characters would have died. And then trying to have new characters made, piece everything back together, and be like, okay, now how do we get the story moving forward? There could be this whole vengeance mission on, let's go kill this Kraken. Let's go retrieve the bodies of our fallen companions. Loot the Kraken's, vast, wealth of stuff because they're freaking mythical beings that hoard treasure. So yeah, come on. But I, as a DM, didn't want to have to go through a potential multi-session arc away from the main storyline to deal with that. So I was like, all right, let's see how we can deal with this. Now, I, as Ted, the GM, know that freaking Lucky is a silver-tongued or golden-tongued devil when it comes to the persuasion skill. So it's not hard for him to get into the 30s with that. So I'm like, let's see what they do. And they negotiated, and instead of dying, they gave up some treasure, and the party got to live. Now, who knows? Maybe this Kraken and the Drow are, completely connected now, and there's some kind of trade negotiations and servants, and
or maybe thousands and thousands of deaths will happen, and it's all Lucky's fault for letting the Kraken live. I think we had him right where we wanted him.
Well, somebody was right where somebody wanted them.
That part I will totally agree with. In my sister or Scarlet Sisterhood game, as well as in some of your games, there's author Megan R. Miller who plays with us, and she comes to the table with 2 characters. She's always got a backup character. At least in my game, she has, and she's always excited to play the backup character or keep playing the character that she's playing. And I think that's a great mentality to have. That's a great attitude to have. Come with 2 characters, and if the first one doesn't make it, so be it. And, in the old Dark Sun games, you had a character tree. You were expected to come with 3 characters because you were expected to have at least 1 or 2 of them die.
I love the old Dark Sun methodology, even if I didn't particularly enjoy that potential, that vast potential for death. But I believe Dark Sun is a fantastic world to play in and to have fun with. Now, I, as a lover of D&D, I've been playing this game for more than 2 decades. I like making characters. I enjoy the creative aspect of coming up with something, that's a cool story that I'm going to enjoy playing. I might not have character sheets that are done and ready for the exact level that the game would be at, but I typically have 3 to 4 characters in my head that I would love to play at any given time, and they're waiting for the right story to come along. Now, the character that I'm going to choose to play is going to be dependent upon whether it's an ongoing campaign or whether it's a one-shot. Because the foremost characters in my brain, and I've made mention of this several times, my Tiefling Bard and my Gnome Illusionist, I want them to be in a campaign. I don't want to play them in a one-shot because the one was already done in a one-shot and that just wasn't enough. I've got ideas for what I want to do with them, and I need more time than just a handful of hours to play with. Whereas other characters, I'm like, I don't have a problem, leveling up or de-leveling characters that I've used elsewhere or come up with that I could just throw in anywhere. And if you look at all of the character build videos that we've done here on the channel, many of them are like, this is this is an amazing character, and as we're building it, I'm like, man, that's awesome. I want to play that too. So it's all pretty easy for me to be like, okay, what do I want to play next?
So Justin Harris, which character death affected you guys the most personally?
I don't mind sharing, but my first character death with Dave, hit me hard. I in fact, got laughed at because I cried.
I thought you almost cried.
I thought, I don't remember the specifics, but you've laughed at me saying you were crying.
Your eyes were glassy. Sometimes it happens.
That was second edition. That was Grevin the Beardless One. He was a dark dwarven gnome psionicist, and in second edition, the mental magic. My favorite was Animal Affinity, and he had an affinity towards scorpions. So he would actually grow scorpion claws and a scorpion tail. So 5th edition combat happened so much faster than 2nd edition, because for me, I would go invisible, I would enlarge, I would grow my natural weapons, and then I would attack. So I wasn't doing anything really to help in the combat till the 4th round. But when I started attacking, man, I beat the snot out of anything around me, because I was attacking 3 times every round for lots of damage, and it was awesome.
I don't actually have any impactful deaths. I don't think in any of the characters I played, because we just came from a different time for the game where it's you're just expected to have characters. It was just part of the game, and and that part hasn't really changed for me. So when a character dies, it's just like, play another one. So it's not that big a deal. It might be like, oh, that sucks, but yeah, it happens. Like when I lost my Ogre Magi, that sucked. When he got entrapped, which was cool because he didn't start off as an Ogre Magi. He got reincarnated into an Ogre Magi. And then it was also the first time I ever kind of played like a Bender gender character, not by choice, but because of putting on a cursed magic item. So for me, like it was like, oh man, I'm not gonna get to play another Ogre Magi anytime soon. But that being said, I'm like, all right, roll up another character. We do this again.
So since you and I have been gaming together, have you actually lost any characters at our table?
Man, I don't know. I feel like I should have or must have, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just better at D&D than you guys. But,
Core.
Oh yeah, Core did die and then he got reincarnated.
He got reincarnated. He came back better.
But yeah, like my character death has been like, my character deaths have been kind of like that. Like I had a high elf get reincarnated. Well, first he died, turned into a werewolf, got killed again, and then reincarnated into an Ogre Magi. So like with that character, like the deaths just got better and better until he actually died for good. So that part was kind of sad. Like I got to be a werewolf and an Ogre Magi with the same character. He wasn't a werewolf Ogre Magi.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, so when he died, that was a little sad, but only because it was like a kind of like a cool mechanical character evolution. And then Core died, which sucked. But then that was my first 3rd edition character. But then he got reincarnated into a centaur, and he was already a mobility-based fighter.
Mobility strength-based fighter.
Yeah, and he just got stronger and faster.
So, like, yeah, it might suck being a centaur underground, but yeah, and you guys have heard that story, about Core walking across the symbol of death, and Ragnthar reincarnating him from the. Was he a human who was like a quarter orc or something, or was he a half orc?
He was actually just a human, but I just flavored him as being a quarter orc.
So that's how you.
So he could get tuition on college lowered. It was like 1/16 orc, and they're like,
I think you were just explaining that your low charisma based on that.
It might have been, and like I described him as having like a dusty grayish kind of skin, and he had
one snaggle tooth.
Yeah, a little bit of the overbite or underbite, and kind of like yellow eyes. Now I want to play a strength-based centaur monk now.
I've got loads of choices of things that I want to do. We did that skill monkey character, and I think that would be a lot of fun. To approach that. I was looking at a half elf fighter, and half elves tend to have that higher stat range, and I'm like, how can I play around with this and be pretty decent across the board, having a +1s and 2s and whatnot as much as possible.
Maybe I'll play the monk in your game. There's already way too many characters in that game anyway, so I might as well pick something that doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, if you come with a handful of ideas next week, we can see like, okay, what's gonna be most fun and most fit. But
I'm just gonna like take 15 minutes and whip up about 15 characters in D&D Beyond. Be like, which one of these, Ted?
But like I said, there's as I told you guys, there's seven players in that particular game. I'm like, all right, we're gonna have to squeeze in at the table. Not that we haven't fit 9 before, but
part of me is like, I really wouldn't mind playing my Servant of the Earl King. That would be fun. So many ideas. The only thing I know is like I need to stay away from a wizard type character because I feel like Uthengard covered that, but at the same time he was very, very martial too. So it's like, because part of me just wants to play a straight up fighter too.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of really great choices. I mean, for me, I like multi-classing. I like blending things together.
Human fighter with all the ASIs, and and getting a feat for being human is pretty sweet.
I mean, there's a lot that you could wind up doing with that. I mean, I did human with my cleric, and although he feels multi-classed, he isn't. He's he's a 19th level cleric at this point. But because storyline is where it's gone, there's a little bit of splash of warlock, and because of the feat choices he's made, he's kind of wizard, and even the goblins refer to him as a wizard.
The wizard, yeah.
So it's kind of amusing from that aspect. But I mean, to me, especially, like, if you're not talking about a 1 to 20 campaign, multiclassing for me just tends to have that variety, adds more fun for me.
Ellis, hey, if they don't want to die, let them undie.
Well, there's always that that possibility as well.
I think there was a great tweet that kind of has been turned into a meme about a 11-year-old gamer who's for their first session their character dies, and they just write Junior on the back of it and start up, I'm here to avenge my father's death. And that's kind of like how I look at it.
Well,
I think kids go either way as well. They're going to be really attached and really upset, or they're like, all right, let's do it again.
Well, my 6-year-old, she doesn't have the can't think of the right word. She's not able to, the attention span. There you go, to really stick around for a 3 or 4 hour session. It's asking a lot of her. But in the last session, she was like, "Can I make a new character?" I'm like, "There's no need for you to do that right now." But it's like, I don't want to play a frog anymore. And I had looked through the one grung above, because there's a character sheet in that. So I piecemealed the race of grung together so that she could play that, because for a while she was obsessed with frogs.
Yeah. So Doug says, play a dwarf woman with a beard, of course. I've actually already... I just finished up a game with a dwarf woman with a beard. I don't know if they were supposed to have beards or not, but I was playing it with the beard. I feel like it's so much more of an interesting choice for a dwarf character. Actually, I died in that game, too. And Anton, we were playing pre-gens, and so that card has that game has a card component to it. And we saw definitely a fight we should not have fought. But, Anton was this Russian who... Basically, the Russians nuked themselves to try and take out the demons. Didn't really work. Sort of worked a little bit. But it was really just generally horrible for the Russian people. So we see this, demon lord fly over. And I was like, I want to totally call him out. But not only did I do that, I had a card that allowed me to be like, I'm calling you out. You will hear me. And you will acknowledge this. And we destroyed it. But, 2 of us died in the process. And that was a lot of fun. So,
Justin's saying they still need to make the Beardomancer.
The Beardomancer, yeah. So. We have to make that happen for, maybe for the April Fool's Patreon rewards, we do the Beardomancer. Speaking of Patreon rewards, they are up today. So, what do we have? Monster Menagerie, Volume 1, Secret of the Vaults has been released. So, that should be over there if you're a patron. At the $2 level or higher, you can go over and just download it. That went up last night, or maybe early this morning. I don't know. I keep a weird sleeping schedule, so it could have been either.
But speaking of patron rewards, do we want to do this month's giveaway?
Sure.
All right. So for you guys out there who might not be aware, every month we do a giveaway here on this channel. In order to get an entry, you either need to be a patron at $1 a month, or head over to the Nerdarchy website, go to the contest section, download the form, print it out, fill it out, mail it into our P.O. box, and I add those names that get entered into a list with excuse me, all of our patrons. Hit the random number generator and pull out a name. And, then we contact you and mail it out. It's not associated with YouTube or Patreon or anything. It's just something extra that we like to do to showcase awesome products that we receive from, vendors or stuff that, we ourselves happen to, pick out or buy. And then, send it off to you guys because we think you're awesome. It's usually $50 or more. And we've even given away and Invisible Sun Black Cube. Actually, 2 of them, which have an MSRP of $300.
Which is super cool. I mean, it's not as cool as that time we gave away a cabin and a comic book Comic-Con cruise, essentially, but it's all right.
Yeah, I mean that was an awesome package, and we got to then be on a cruise with some of our fans.
Yes, we did.
So this month's giveaway happens to be hey, do you want to play some other RPGs besides D&D? So we are giving away Kids on Bikes with the Strange Adventures in Small Towns. We're giving away Dark Places and Demigorgons.
Ooh.
As well as a copy of Westbound. So 3, packages for new games to play. Thank you to all the appropriate companies.
Can we figure out who these appropriate companies are? I know for the Dark Places and Demigods, or Demigorgons, I know the last name is Bloke because I'm friends with him, but I want to say Eric, but I don't want to say the wrong name, even though it is Eric. So, he donated this for us, which was awesome.
So, Kids on Bikes is Renegade Game Studios. And I know we were contacted from Westbound, who, sent us a couple copies to give away. Designer is John Heffernan. I'm not certain if that is the gentleman who had contacted us, but
And this is just Bloat Games, so yeah, absolutely check those out, and you're gonna have a chance to win some new RPGs to play.
Well, these are going to this guy.
Oh, someone's already won.
So this is already.
I didn't know if we were announcing. I thought we were announcing the next giveaway.
Yeah, we sadly haven't been doing that. We just announce and say, hey, here's the thing. So this is going to Dante Murray. So Dante, I will be reaching out to you via email, and I can send you these awesome things. If you happen to want to get in on our monthly giveaway, where, as I said, we give away awesome stuff every month, you can sign up for our Patreon or download that form from the website. Mail it in.
Do the thing. Also, we want to thank Becky from Pair of Geeks, because we're having an issue with our website, and she donated some time to give me a hand with it and clean some things up. Hopefully the problem is gone. I'm not entirely sure, because it's been like an intermittent thing that doesn't seem to happen that often.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt when, the website owner can't even get into the website.
We cranked up the security, and that's what happened.
It's like, Dave, I can't click on our website. It gives me this weird error.
Ted's a Russian bot secretly. That's why.
Yeah.
It was doing its job.
But we are now in February, which means it is now my month to run a game for the fans. So that fan game will be on February 22nd at 8 p.m. That is normally my RPG Crate game time slot, but some of the players aren't available that day. So we're still trying to, ruffle and shuffle the date of that game. So we'll keep you posted for that. But since that's already been time slotted for me to play, I might as well grab some awesome fans, which I've got a list here, and we'll play some D&D. This one won't be streamed, so you guys will just be able to hang out off air and play some cool D&D, and we'll read off the list of names. And there's some pretty cool ones here. So Joshua Elford, Tyler, apparently no last name, Brad Harrison, Oppressed by the Sun, Randy Wapparam, Austin Carroll, Dusty Coles, Kyle Bogdan, Alcazar, also no last name, and the Knuckle of Vecna. So
several of them have been on the show when we used to do the live chats.
Mm-hmm.
Oppressed by the Sun. Oppressed by the Sun is a immigration attorney.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we got him to say "stay nerdy" in like Mandarin or something.
Oh, cool.
And
do we know anything about the Knuckle of Vecna?
Yeah, they have a YouTube channel. They have a popular website. And they also put out some products for 5e D&D as well. So we do know a little bit about them.
Awesome.
Those guys were great to talk to when we had them on in the past, for sure.
So I will be also reaching out to those people, and we'll get 4 or 5 players, and if they don't respond, then we'll fill in from somewhere else, and we'll get to play some cool D&D later.
Yeah, so that was February 22nd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. For I think someone said they didn't catch it. So
yeah, we always do Eastern Time because that's where we are. But yeah, so
right.
there's my announcements.
There, done, boom. We can go home now.
I am home. I'll just put my feet up.
Yeah. So we've been working on our adventure for D&D in the Castle for the three of us. Myself, you, Doug, and we're doing something we've never done. We're not really talking about it too much elsewhere, but I guess it's worth mentioning, and we'll talk about it here a little bit. The fact that we're coordinate together to build this adventure together, without giving away too much. So I'm excited because this is going to be D&D at a level that we've never done before.
If you guys aren't familiar, the D&D in the Castle, it's 6 consecutive sessions played out over 3 days. So you do 2 time blocks, every day. So it's a lot of D&D that gets to be played. I'm going to have to, make sure that I've got my my throat lozenges to deal with that amount of talking and, shouting. But we've set up that we are now meeting weekly to discuss the events that are going to go on to this. So I think by the time June rolls around, months worth of planning, we're basically going to have an adventure that's written. So we'll see whether that winds up becoming a thing at some point in time.
A product we put somewhere as a Kickstarter. Who knows what it could be?
Yeah.
Because we've never put this much planning into a single adventure. I don't think. I mean, there's some Patreon products that we've done more work on, but we're literally kind of just getting started, and we're doing every week. We're adding to this document and kind of building it out.
So I'm really excited to put this out there. I know Dave has done, especially recently, a lot more gaming than what we used to do. I mean, you're averaging a couple sessions a week at this point in time.
Yeah, at least.
Myself, I'm finally back in a in a weekly game, which I haven't done in years, and that's a lot of fun. Session 4 just was played Thursday night, and that's over on Mini Terrain Domain with Jake being the GM, who's one of the players in my RPG Crate game, and it's a lot of fun. The players there are really great. I feel like the dynamics, we really all work well together. All of them are awesome role players, even if we're not playing your typical dwarven dwarves, even though it yo-yos back and forth between, okay, that comment doesn't make sense for a dwarf, but all of this does. So.
Are you doing a Scottish accent?
I try. I keep falling out of it.
Let's hear a little bit. You give us a little bit.
I need prep time to pull my accent together.
I'm terrible at doing that as well.
I do much better at doing the lower voices, for goblins and gnomes and that kind of and kobolds, than I am at let me say laddie and I and that kind of stuff. It's it takes work for me to build a character in my head and be like, all right, I got to use this. I know. In the one session I had, when I was running, I came up with a cool NPC that was sort of based off of a character in a TV show. And I spent hours working the accent, just because I liked the character concept so much. And I was pretty happy with it. I don't know if any of the players really, cared or liked it, but I was happy.
James Leslie says, Ted, just do a pugny Liverpool dwarf. I'm terrible at accents. I can't do accents to save my life. I will try from time to time. I find that some are easier. It's easier for me to try and do something inhuman, if you adding a more sibilant sounds to either a reptile or snake-like person, or the squawking and extra added sounds for like a bird type person, but actual accents, not so much. If I'm told I have a Jersey accent, which is ultimately I just revert to. It was funny when I was trying to figure out Tony Two Tusks accent, and I was basically going for like that North Jersey accent anyway. So I'm on my phone like listening to Jersey accents, and my wife is like, "Why are you listening to Jersey accents? You're literally from Jersey." And I still don't feel like I do a good Jersey accent for that character anyway.
If I've got something that I can, listen to and, try to help, get into my head, I feel like I can make it happen for a session. But like I would have to keep going back to it. I know, your son David, he likes when I do like the goblins and things, So like those are fun and interesting, and I can pull those out when I need to. Like,
yeah, I feel like that kind of stuff is a lot easier. Like when you're just trying to bring the register up or down for your voice, the pitch.
But
that's a lot easier to me than actually trying to do
an accent.
Yeah.
So I know in my game there was Henri, who he had a blast playing
with his French accent.
One.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he brings to the table with his Yontai.
Let's see.
We're getting down to our last couple minutes, so...
I'm trying to read the username in order to get to their comment. Kana Hafaku Figgin Corbin. Do you prefer the old school kobolds or new lizard-like kobolds? We're divided.
Yeah, Dave and I are on opposite sides. If you look at the... Oh, we got a super chat come in.
Hey, thanks, Fantasy Grounds College.
When what do you call it? When like the 5th edition DM screen, which has got like the very draconic looking kobolds, to me, I really like the look of those. Dave is very much.
I dig the old school rat dog kobolds. Lizard rat dog kobolds is probably the best description.
So like we've talked off air about like whether both happen to exist in our world and they're like divided, and maybe there was a point of evolution where like two distinct.
We also have a bunch of art that was made up for a potential kobold, but it may just be turned into something else.
Right. So like we look at both sides, and it's like, okay, do we want to do something with this? If you've got two branches of kobolds, then you've got the ability to be like, okay, well, you've got two distinct races to play with. Maybe they're at war. Maybe they both lay claim to the term kobold. You could mean a whole bunch of different things, and it would set the campaign world apart if you've got this divergence from the typical world that's out there.
Or maybe they don't call themselves kobolds at all. They call themselves something else, and other people call them kobolds, and
they get offended.
Well, not that. It's just depending on what region you're from. That that's what your kobold looks like. And then if you travel to the other one, like that's not a kobold. This is a kobold. Pulls one out of his backpack. Stick it back in. Yeah.
But as I was saying, we're getting down to our last couple minutes. So if you happen to want to check out the after show, we do a Patreon only. Do you want to?
Yeah. So in theory, I think I figured out what we tried to do last week and did it poorly, and it just cost us 15 minutes of time. But no, I think I figured that out. So in about 5 minutes, a post is going to go up over on the Patreon account, and that will have a link to the next live chat for the after show. If you're a patron at any level, we're going to let you come hang out with us, ask questions. We already have a question over there that someone has about GMing and being a new GM, so we're going to start with that, and then the after show goes for however long, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Depends on how long you guys want to talk and how engaging you guys are with us. So if you're there and you want to talk to us, then we're going to talk more. And if less people show up, then we're going to do less. Either way, it gets recorded, and then there's a link on the Patreon for patrons that they can go back later and watch it at their leisure.
Absolutely, but it's it's a great way for us to connect with the patrons, show them some extra love, because those who support us on Patreon, they really help us do all the different things that we do, between equipment, website fees, and who knows all the other different things that costs. It's just an extra way for us to give back.
So, Scratch Paper Games, all too bad, cool that you got to play in it. Will there be a recap video? I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about the D in the Castle thing, like, there's actually recap videos of when I went and played, but this hasn't happened yet. So when it does happen, you can be assured there will probably be some videos where we talk about that afterwards.
But he also wants to know, are we still filming my Griffin-Gaff game?
That might be what he's talking about.
Will we see them ever enter the abyss?
Never. It's filmed. It's filmed and in the cloud right now.
So we at some point in time, we will wind up having a second D&D live play channel, or gameplay channel, where we'll wind up moving those things over to there, and start getting them up at some point. But it'll happen. But the game actually ended. We actually have the boss hidden behind me over here that they wound up facing. It was a great game. I really enjoyed running it, and it was the.
Is he hidden now? I'm wondering if they could see it on camera.
No, they can't see it because it's literally behind my head.
Yeah, I can see it.
Well, you can see it, but I'm currently blocking it.
I wonder if he shows up in some of our regular videos.
Maybe
on the TED Cam.
Probably not. Usually the TED Cam comes this way now.
Yeah. I don't know. He might be on there. You guys can see if you can search him out. Where's Waldo?
But every once in a while, I'll go and change up the stuff that's on the shelves, especially as I decide to paint some new minis.
Yeah, I saw you had some supplies over there. So the little cups, and you had like about 50 million brushes, and.
Yeah, well, I've been. You guys know I'm a big fan of minis, and when Bones 3, and this is going back a ways, came up on Kickstarter, the funds were just not where I wanted it to be. So I didn't get all the extras that I would have liked, and they had a awesome Froghemoth that literally just a few weeks ago wound up finally releasing on the store. Bones 4 is just about to be delivered in a month and a half. And they finally
released. Did you get it on that Kickstarter?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got, I think, over 400 minis coming from Bones 4. Yeah, I went crazy.
Oh, wow. Over 400. Even at $1 a mini, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What was it? Do you remember what the top tier was for that Kickstarter?
What do you mean? Well, the way those works, they do $100 gets you the core set, and the core set builds as you go. And then there's add-ons. So the way their stretch goals work is every other is going to be an add-on, and then the ones in between it builds the core set out. So it based on the last few, it winds up being for $100 you usually get over 100 minis.
Okay.
But then as you add on, this one's 20, this one's 15, this group might be, X amount. But I spent over 700 to get, over 400 minis. But some of those are like, you get a $10 mini or for $10 you'll get a mini that when it goes to the store it'll be like 30.
Yeah.
And that was the case with the one that I wanted. There were two that I really wanted from Bones 3. This happens to be Fang Maul the Devourer. And he was like $10 or $15.
They never have like nice or sweet names.
No, they're the monsters. They're the bad guys. And the things that I really like, I really enjoy painting.
So why can't it be Fang Maul the Cuddler?
Well, when you name it in your game, you can do that. But he was like $10 or $15 if you had backed it during the Kickstarter. Because I need to have it now. This guy was like, I bought it for $45 on eBay. But Mudgullet, which was initially the Froghemoth, it's massive, and that one just was released, 2 weeks ago. and he was again $10 or $15 on the Kickstarter, was $30 when they released it on the website. So for me, it's like, if there's at any chance that you would want, to get that mini and to paint it, you might as well back it during the Kickstarter rather than wait for it to release on the website. So that was my mindset. So I'm just trying to get more painting done.
Dear to the mind! I am so loose and abstract when it comes to minis and that kind of stuff.
No, there's a, like, when I'm sitting there painting, it's a stress reducer.
Cathartic.
Like I'll throw on
get in the zone.
I'll throw on, either an audiobook or some music that I enjoy listening to, and I'll just sit there and concentrate and just try to, like, push all the worries and the issues aside. And, I'm not as good as Jake or, Blues Light Painting. There's a lot of great painters that are out there. But you know what? I'm pretty happy. I mean, I think this guy came out pretty well. This is something that I picked up at I think this was Gen Con.
Yeah, you got that one at Gen Con, yeah. But
I mean, it's a Dracodile, and he is freaking awesome. Maybe if I decide,
I don't know if it was real or not, but I saw an image of a creature that actually looked like that. Basically, it looks like a crocodile T-Rex kind of, but we're crocodilian sized. Right. And I think it was saying that it was an actual thing that existed, that lived.
Well, I mean, there was like the Spinosaurus is supposed to have.
No, it wasn't actually a dinosaur. It was just a reptile, and it looked like a crocodile, but with long hind legs, and looked like more of a land creature. Oh, okay. Like a crocodile that could outrun you and probably maneuver much better. You can't zigzag away from.
So I think with this guy, I think the only thing I'd want to try and do is, like, kind of give him the slit pupils. Would wind up making his eyes pop a little bit more, but
I could do that for you, but it'd just be a big blob on either side. I do not have the patience for precision work. It's not my thing. Even when I worked in construction, like, for the most part, all my tools were like 20 pounds and above. The tool that I used the most was, like, you measure it in tons. So
I find painting the bigger models are going to wind up being easier. Their details, wind up, are able to pop more. When you start painting, like, the typical, the mini, it's like, all right, I don't got the eyes for that. I don't got the one bristle brush, I know, my friend Jim, who really likes painting minis, or did when we hung out more. Like, he's got the glasses with the multiple layers that you can put down for the super zoom,
so you can look like a tinker gnome while you do it.
Basically, and he'll pull out the lights, he'll pull on these glasses, and he'll get the one bristle brush that you only it's $10 and you only get to use it for like 3 strokes and that's it.
That is not.
But, like, what are you gonna do?
Better make those strokes count. That's all I'm saying.
I'm more like, you know what? I'll do an eye with a toothpick. I can, and then throw the toothpick away.
Well, we are over time, so it's time to wrap up so we can get over to the after show. In theory, that should be posted to Patreon, so you'll be able to go to the post and get the link and join in there. If you're not a patron, you can sign up and join in the after show. If you're not going to be available to check it out, it'll be up, so you'll be able to take it. Also, if you're a patron at the $2 level or higher, that's where we give out the product. That is up. That should be over on Patreon, so you can go download it. In either case, you'll have to log in and then go get your stuff. So until next time, stay nerdy.